We all make promises, big ones, small ones, to our partners, to our kids, to our customers. But which of these promises should the law actually care about? When does a simple "I promise" turn into a legally binding contract? Well, to get our heads around that, let's put our instincts to the test with a few quick scenarios.
Okay, first up, imagine your rich uncle. He's at your graduation party, feeling super proud and emotional, and he promises you a trip around the world. What a gift, right? It's generous, it's heartfelt, but then he changes his mind. Should you really be able to sue him for the plane ticket? Or how about this one? You agreed to buy a used car from your neighbor for $1,000. You give him the cash, he gives you the keys. Simple. Except, you thought you were buying that shiny Cadillac sitting in his driveway. He thought he was selling the rusty old Chevy out back. So, yeah, a huge misunderstanding. And for our last one, picture a farmer. He sees an ad in a magazine for a sure means to kill grasshoppers. Sounds great. He sends in his money, and what does he get in the mail? 2 wooden blocks. And the instructions? Place grasshopper on block A and smash with block B. This isn't just a misunderstanding, is it? This feels, well, like you've been totally ripped off. So, what's your gut feeling? The generous gift that fell through? The completely confused deal? The deceptive product? Which of these promises should a court actually step in and enforce? The answer really gets to the heart of what contract law is all about. For a very long time, the law had a surprisingly straightforward answer to this whole question. It's called the bargain theory. And honestly, it was a simple, clean, and pretty powerful formula. The rule was just this. If a promise is part of a bargain, the law will enforce it. If it's not part of a bargain, like your rich uncle's gift, then the law just stays out of it. It's like a switch, on or off, bargain or no bargain. That's it. So what exactly makes a bargain in the eyes of the law? Well, 3 things. You need an offer, someone has to accept that offer, and, this is the most important part, there has to be something called consideration. Now, consideration is just a fancy legal term for the stuff that's exchanged. It's the thing of value, money, a car, even another promise that proves this is a serious deal, not just casual talk.
And this Adam Smith quote, it just nails the whole mindset behind the theory. As he pointed out, we don't get our dinner because the baker is a nice guy. We get it because we give him money. Bargains aren't about kindness, they're about mutual self-interest. You want my bread? I want your cash. That exchange, that consideration, is what made a promise legally real for a very long time. But, this simple rule started to show some cracks. For one, it's under-inclusive, meaning it ignores really serious promises that just aren't bargains, like a huge donation someone promises to a university. And it's also over-inclusive. As long as something was exchanged, courts would enforce ridiculously lopsided deals, like the famous story of Esau trading his entire inheritance for a bowl of soup. This rigid approach just wasn't always fair or practical.
So this led economists to come in and reframe the whole question. They said, hang on. Instead of just asking, was there a bargain, let's ask a better question. What is the economic purpose of enforcing a promise? And the answer wasn't about bargains. It was about cooperation.
And here's the big idea. The real magic of contract law isn't just about making sure deals happen. It's about building trust for what are called deferred exchanges. Think about it. Any project that takes time, where I do something for you now and you pay me back later, that requires a ton of trust. Contract law is the tool we built to make that trust possible.
Okay, let's play a simple game to see how this works. Imagine an investor has $1 million she wants to give to an innovator. Now, the innovator has 2 choices. He can cooperate, turn that million into 2 million and share the profits, or he can just appropriate the money and run. Without a contract, what's the logical move for the investor? Right, don't invest. The risk is way too high. The result? A great opportunity is lost and nobody wins.
But everything, and I mean everything, changes the second we introduce a legally enforceable promise.
So now the innovator can make a promise that has real teeth. A court will enforce it. This basically takes the run away with the money option off the table because the penalty would be way too high. And that transforms his promise into what economists call a credible commitment. The investor can now trust him. She invests the money, the project succeeds, and both of them walk away with the profit. Win-win.
And that right there is the crucial point. From an economic perspective, the main job of contract law is to enable cooperation. It takes these situations where we don't trust each other, where the logical outcome is for nothing to happen, and it turns them into games where we can work together and create value.
Okay, so that's why we enforce promises. But that brings us to the second huge question. What's the right thing to do when an enforceable promise is broken? What's the penalty? The economic answer here is, well, it's a bit surprising. The goal isn't to punish the person who broke the promise. The goal is to get the most efficient outcome for society as a whole.
Let's look at this waffle shop example. Yvonne hires a builder, Xavier, to do an expansion. If everything goes well, that's good luck, his costs are low, and he makes a nice profit of $500,000. But what if he has bad luck? Maybe his materials get delayed and his costs go through the roof. Now, finishing the job would mean he loses $1 million. But if he breaks the contract and just pays damages, he only loses $500,000. For Xavier, it's a no-brainer to breach. So what does Xavier owe Yvonne for breaking his promise? Well, the standard remedy is called expectation damages, and the goal is super simple. Put Yvonne in the exact same financial spot she expected to be in if the job had been finished. In this case, that means making sure she still gets her $500,000 payoff. She is made whole, so she's okay with it. And this leads us to a really wild and counterintuitive idea: efficient breach. The law actually encourages people to break their promises, but only under one very specific condition: if the cost of performing the promise is greater than the benefit the other person gets. It's actually more efficient for society for the builder to walk away, pay up, and avoid that massive, wasteful loss. And this number right here is the whole reason why. -0.5. That is the total value that gets destroyed, the net loss to the entire economy if Xavier is forced to finish that job when his costs are sky high. By letting him breach the contract and just pay damages, the total loss is zero. The system avoids that pointless waste of resources. That's efficient breach in a nutshell. Which, of course, leaves us with a pretty provocative final thought. This economic view sees a contract not as some sacred moral vow, but as a practical tool for efficiency. So if that's true, is it actually wrong to break a promise as long as you're willing to pay the price and make the other person whole? It really challenges our basic ideas about what it means to give your word, doesn't it? Something to chew on.